Hello, folks, and thanks for coming back for another episode of the Velo Podcast. My name is Mike Levy, and today I have Velo Tech editors Logan Jones-Wilkins and Josh Ross with me, and we're going to talk about all things Unbound. Logan spent the last week in Emporia, Kansas to cover the race. You could check out all of Logan's coverage, including the bike checks, which includes the winning bikes, stories of chains being peed on, gravel team tactics, stories about tire changes. You could check all of that out on the Velo homepage. He also recorded a load of bike check videos that if you go to the Velo YouTube channel, which is Velo, it's not just one Velo, it's 3 Velos for some reason. You could check out all of Logan's videos there. Today, though, he's going to break down the decisive moments from the men's and women's 200-mile race, including the wheel swap that won the race and maybe or maybe not, depending on your opinion, changed gravel racing from here on out. We're also going to dig into the Unbound XL, the 350-mile event that, much like the 200, it saw some ridiculous mud and water, and maybe some racers peed on their chains at some point. Urine has been a hot topic on the Velo podcast lately for some reason.
Oh my God, I hate it.
I know.
Oh my God, I hate it. I
me.
really don't like urine. Oh.
Also,
Mike.
You were just doing your job. I appreciate it. There were a bunch of new and or interesting bikes at the race as well, including that prototype Scott 30 Tour that Robin used to win the XL event, and the new Specialized Crux that had probably the best bike debut in the history of bike debuts. I imagine somebody at Specialized I imagine a lot of people at Specialized are very happy how that played out. But first, Logan, you raced the Unbound 100, and
Yes,
as someone who's hopefully never going to ride their gravel bike in Kansas, can you describe the course and the conditions?
That's a perfect setup. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you say that. It's funny you say that because I just posted a reflection, sort of my last word from Kansas. I just posted this when we were recording. It's a couple days old now. But I was talking about how much I love like the nitty gritty of Unbound, even through all the pageantry when you get out there and you ride and you have to deal with mud and all this stuff. So I love riding in Kansas. I've done the 200 3 or 4 times. I snapped my seat post off once. I've had a total of probably 8 flats. I finished 18th in 2021 when it was not a professional race yet.
In Pro Men.
In the Pro Men, yes. Well, there wasn't a Pro Men category, but I was right behind Alex Lever-Mullen, who had even more flats than I did. So that was kind of where I started my Unbound jersey. So it's special to me. And this year, obviously, I was there for work mostly. I got there Sunday, was working all the way through when I was in the airport on Sunday or even Monday when I got back home on Unbound coverage. But I tried to sneak in a race too because I wanted to test the new Crux, kind of in the best case scenario for it, which was, as we learned over the weekend, Unbound Gravel, because it was, it occupied 5 out of this, I think I got this right, 5 out of the 6 podium spots in the 200
Top
race.
3 men, top 2 women.
Top 2 women,
Yeah.
and 5th place also in the men's race. And that person, we'll talk about it later, was absolutely one of the 3 strongest riders in the race. So, and riding it, I can say, like, I don't want to spoil my video that's coming out, but it is a bike that is very well suited to Unbound. So I had a great time. I was very stressed. I did not sleep a lot. I think my watch says I slept 5.5 hours average over the last 7 days. So I'm pretty tired now, especially tacking on a 6-hour-ish, 5-hour and 40-minute race. So yeah, big day, big week for me, but I love it. And Mike, you should do it. You should come out and do it on a tandem with me, perhaps.
Can I just you sound very strong. Can I just lift my feet up? Like, I'll ride Stoker and then I could just lift my feet up and you could just pedal.
I might need some boost on a couple climbs, but I got the flats at the very least.
I'm like your e-bike battery.
Yeah.
You could just engage me when you need like an extra 20 or 50 watts or something.
And I'll just scream, boost me.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So I just want to tell people, because Logan is not going to toot his own horn here, but
I think he will.
Well, maybe, but I'm going to save him from that, which is to say that we are going to do a field test eventually, and I'm going to have to ride with Logan, and I'm scared. He did 5 hours and 50 minutes for 107 Yeah, 107 miles, which I couldn't do that on a dry day, and it was on a muddy, wet day, and he crashed. And still, 550.
I did crash. I got crashed specifically.
How did you crash? Can you describe what happened?
So this is a big...
Be nice, Logan.
I'm going to try to be nice, but this is one of the worst incidents I've ever witnessed in a bike race. And that's being completely honest. So it was mile 5. I was trying to do whatever I could to not crash, right? Because I have a new bike that's not mine. I don't want to crash. I just want to do the 100. I'm not even fully racing because like I said, I'm there to work. So I'm at the very front, just in the wind, second wheel, third wheel, first wheel. Like I was going to get through the first section without crashing because it's chaotic. And even if you're towards the back, people will cut in front of you and the risk of crashing is always high. So I was there. A guy in front of me was also riding, not very fast. An attack went up the left. The guy in front of me didn't react, kind of started going back through the field. People got angry. One guy came around him and said, "Just ride, man." Well, used other words, but I won't do that here. And shoulder checked him and he went down right in front of me at 26 miles per hour. And it was a rider. It was a 10, 15 person pileup at speed.
He shoulder checked him on purpose.
Yeah, it was 100% intentional. I'm bummed my GoPro wasn't recording because I absolutely wish I could have found him.
Spirit of gravel.
It was pretty appalling. And if I had my video recording, I would have reported to Lifetime and advocated that this person be banned from their events in perpetuity because it's truly one of the strangest acts of aggression I've ever seen because it's 6 miles into a 100-mile gravel race where 15 of those, like you spend half a mile walking because it's muddy. Like there's plenty of time to bring it back. And someone was in such a hurry to respond to a move that wasn't going anywhere. They shoulder checked someone with no regard for the repercussions of their actions. So bad crash. Shame on that person, but the bike was okay. I was fine. I feel less fine now. I'm pretty crunchy.
He's young though, people.
But I do crash. Most of my crashes are on the mountain bikes these days because I'm still learning. But yeah, crashing comes with the territory. It just shouldn't be like that.
How can you describe, like, what did you lose the front end? Did you go out the front door? Did you go out the back door? Did you low side? What happened?
Well, it happened right in front of me. Literally the wheel in front, the person in front of me went down. So the bike stopped and I kept going is kind of the best way to describe it.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a little fly. I had a little time in the air. But like I said, I was okay. The bike was okay. So I just kind of ended up riding basically alone because I spent about 5-6 minutes helping people who were more injured, making sure everyone was okay, gathering my bearings. And then by that point, I was kind of with other riders who weren't going to go as fast as I did. So I kind of had to spend a lot of time sort of pulling on my own until I got back to about the place I probably would have ended up, maybe a little bit behind, but I was pretty happy with my day, all said and done. I did about 270 normalized power, which I think is solid for 5.5 hours.
How big are you? Personal question. How heavy are you?
I don't actually know. I haven't weighed myself in about a month, but I was 172 pounds last time I weighed myself. I don't know that in kilograms off the top of my head, but like close-ish to 4 watts per kilogram, I think. I mean, but like Matt Beers did 340 watts average for 9 hours and he's 80 kilos. So he did I'm not at that anywhere close to those guys. If I did the 200, I would have been completely obliterated because I couldn't even really sustain it past 4.5 hours. My last hour saw a big dip in power. But no, it was a really fun day, even though I crashed. And I had a lot of fun on the bike too. Without even not even to do an awkward segue, but the bike was really great at doing that job, I have to say.
Logan, it sounds like you're probably just strong enough to keep up with me when you come up here for the field test.
Probably. Yeah. I'm gonna prescribe you guys both 40-20 intervals before I get there. So
okay.
We're all firing on all cylinders.
My intervals are 100 miles as hard as I can, really. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, I've done about 7,000 kilometers of zone 2 this winter and spring, and practically no intervals. So this should be fun. This should be terrible.
Can I advocate? Can I actually leave early when we do the big ride? Can I actually leave like an
We can
hour
do
early? Would
pursuit
be
style.
good. Yes, perfect. Hare and Hound. I love it.
Yeah. Hey, before we get into the race action, why don't we talk about that Specialized Crux? The embargo lifted, I'm not sure when this podcast is going up. I think the embargo lifted like last week. We talked about it briefly on the podcast, but Logan, you went to the launch and you've ridden the bike. You know all the details. Can you give me just a quick 30-second breakdown of what's changed? And then what I really want to know is how the bike rode. How do you feel about the bike?
Yeah. So now I can talk about it, Mike, putting me on the spot a couple weeks ago, asking me to say things I couldn't say. Oh,
we said you missed that it didn't have 32. You were so upset it didn't have 32s.
Yeah.
We gave all the info.
All the info. I mean, the whole thing about it is they are adjusting for, let's say, the modern gravel moment without really trying to change too much about the ride characteristics of the Crux. So some people might call that boring. Other people might call that knowing what they do well. Because the Crux was a very good bike. The Crux 4 was a very good bike to begin with. They just really took the opportunity to add a lot of aerodynamic shaping throughout the whole bike. They somehow also cut weight, and they added clearance up to 55 millimeters. All the geometry changes they did weren't really to accomplish a different goal. It was just sort of to accommodate those bigger tires and a little bit about like bike fits that modern riders are going towards, where their saddles are closer to the bottom bracket and their hands are farther forward with handlebars with longer reach or stems with longer reach. So that was really the broad strokes of what changed. It still very much feels like a Crux. It's not very long. It's not very slack. They add compliance through the extra tires and dropping the seat stays, but it's not something that actually really steps on the toes of the Diverge that much, even though they have the same tire clearance. So that's kind of my SparkNotes version of it. And racing it, you feel familiar, but it feels very fast. Like it's very light. It's very snappy. It's very stiff. And especially in straight lines, like you feel palpable speed. I don't know exactly how many minutes it would have added or it would have subtracted to my time. But it sure did feel easier to get it above like 40 kilometers an hour or 25 miles per hour on gravel surfaces with a 50 mil tire. And I think a lot of that work is done through the wheels. The wheels are a huge upgrade. We talked about that a couple months ago. And on their own, wheels are just wheels, but it really is a system which has a nice new set of handlebars that I think do offer a little bit of vibration dampening and really offer great hand positions. The wheels seem to also create a little bit more of that aerodynamic profile while not doing this really sort of wider gravel wheels. I think change the characteristics of how tires handle in a way that I don't always love. They do a delicate dance of providing an aero platform while still giving you a consistent rounded tire profile that I like, especially when you're in adverse conditions like very slick mud. That being said, like I don't think this bike is best for everybody in all conditions. I think it is very well suited to Unbound, but just this morning I took it out to ride a little rockier, a little steeper terrain, and I certainly felt the limitations of kind of the narrower wheelbase and the more racy or the more race-oriented geometry. So I'm definitely going to need to spend more time on this. I think a key with the gravel bikes is to run through a couple different sizes of tires and a couple different even wheel sets to parse out where the compliance is coming from. Is it coming from the wheel set? Is it coming from the frame? Is it coming from the tires, etc.? But yeah, for a pure race gravel bike, it is a joy to ride, and it's a joy to ride fast.
I'm of two minds. Obviously, I haven't even seen the bike in person, but just in photos and stuff, like it, if you were 30 feet away from that thing, you could call it a Crux 4 and people would be like, yeah, that's a Crux 4. Like, I know it's much more aero, but on the other hand, compared to like a real aero thing with like a deep head tube and all this stuff, it's kind of subtle. And the geometry changes. Obviously, it's moved more towards new schoolish geometry, but it is, I guess my question is, did they go far enough? Like in 2 years from now, there's going to be a new Crux in 3 years or 4 years. So in 2 years from now, is this thing going to feel dated?
I don't think so, because the way I look at gravel, like aerodynamics in gravel, is like the pursuits of aerodynamics should be the low hanging fruit. It should be the leading edge. It should be the handlebar. It should be having a head tube that has an appropriate shape. It's like where you have leading edges, you need to be focused on geometry, or you need to be focused on aerodynamics if you're going to be having a bike that competes at Unbound, where the average speed could be theoretically 40 kilometers an hour. Like, you need to have the aerodynamics. It's too important. But you still want a light bike. It feels better to have a light bike. It feels better to have a bike that steers well. It feels like more, you just get more out of a bike that I think has more well-rounded characteristics rather than just selling out for aero. I even think things like wheels, like those big fat Envy wheels that Josh has in his testing, and I'm sure
wait
loves.
to ride those.
I've heard they're much
going to be the greatest.
They're much stiffer. They provide great aero benefits, but they're also heavier. And Envy themselves were like, we think that the 4.5 might be chosen for more people for all round riding. We just wanted to do the 6.7 to see how aero we could get. So like, I think even companies are sort of shading towards this, like, well, we still want some well-roundedness to our bikes, even if we do want to strip weight and boost aerodynamics. So I think they found a great mix. Like, they checked all the boxes of that low-hanging fruit to get the speed without compromising that handling that people like, and the ability for the bike to do multiple different things, especially sort of go towards the road side of the spectrum. So I think it struck a nice balance. I also was able to see the Factor prototype that sold out much more towards the aerodynamic side of the spectrum, and just like aesthetically brings me a lot less joy, I have to say.
Specifically the front end of that Factor.
Yeah.
I'll be getting the one is coming back to me. I just talked to them. I can't wait.
Excellent.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, and yeah, that thing has clearance for 2.2s, but like, there's a lot going on with that bike that I was like, this might be taking it a step too far, where the Crux seems to put reins on itself to create a overall system that will be faster, because bikes, especially gravel bikes, need to do more than just straight line speed.
Mike, I wanna answer your question without having touched this bike, but I want to just go back to, you said, will it feel dated in 2 years? But the Crux 4, until like, the day before the embargo on the 5, people loved that bike. People will still like run out and buy that bike until the moment.
Geometry wise, though, it's like the 4 is dated geometry wise. That's what I'm talking about mainly.
Yeah, I think the clearance was the thing that was dating it. But I mean, I think you conversely, like, you can also look at a different bike, like the Envy Mog is still being raced at Unbound and doing well. And it was released, 2022? Like, and that bike, I will say, is an overall, like, it's a better bike in terms of like looking at gravel in like its totality, and like its ability to be a bike packing machine, its ability to handle rougher stuff, its ability to handle a suspension fork. It's down tube storage that you fools like so much,
Logan, there's no down tube storage.
I know.
Company that brought us down tube storage. It's a race. So it's a very race focused. So I understand.
I mean, the bike is so light, and I like that it's light. Like, everyone's always being like, "Oh, gravel, it doesn't matter if it's light." Like, the flattest race people do all year is Unbound, and it's still 50 feet of climbing per mile. None of these races are flat unless you go to the Netherlands, right? So, like, weight still matters, and if you can cut as much weight as the S-Works Crux is like bumping up against the UCI road bike limit.
But dude, the stuff that you're going to put in the down tube hatch, you would carry anyway. Like, the extra weight is literally just from the plastic cover, and like obviously the down tube needs to change a bit. Like, I'm not faulting Specialized for not having down tube storage, because I think as a race bike, it makes complete sense for them to not, because they have other bikes like the Diverge. Obviously I'm a Diverge guy, a customer, if I was going to buy one, and not a Crux customer, obviously. But it just seems like a lot of people are going to buy this Crux, and a lot of those people are going to race, but I would imagine most of them just want a fast gravel bike. Like, we all just want a fast gravel bike.
Yeah. And Specialized has actually done the bare minimum to accommodate for that, which is add a third mounting point below the bottle cage where you can attach a box. And they do have a top tube. They have two mounts on the top tube to have a top tube bag, which are more and more popular. as time goes on for these gravel races, I should mention.
Have those not been 100% popular? Everyone runs those. You can't have a gravel bike without that.
Yeah, but you used to like the Crux 4 didn't have it, for instance. So I would not say this is an overall gravel bike, like the best overall gravel bike. I don't think it is, because I don't think it does enough, especially because I think most people look at gravel as something that maybe is a little bit more exploratory than what racing focused bikes need to be focused on. And even some races, I don't think I would choose this bike if I had a stable of bikes. Like, rule of 3, for instance, is like equal parts gravel, pavement, trail. I don't think this would be the right bike, because you're just not gaining the speed that you would lose from having to pick like slower lines or be more careful around turns, where a larger wheelbase with a little more compliance could roll through many more things, right? So like even gravel racing is like a moving target. But for Madsworth Schmidt, Keegan Svensson, Matt Beers, Sofia Gomez Villafane, like all of these riders are doing races where you need something light and aero, undeniably.
Are you telling me that Sophia and Keegan and Mads, they're not concerned about down tube storage? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, actually. Yes. I have good intelligence that Matt Beers is one of the biggest weight weenies in the pro gravel field, which is hilarious because he is so big. But yeah, that is really that is the crux of the issue, you know? It's it's a great race bike.
Clever.
I think it's probably the best gravel race bike out right now, but it's not the best overall gravel bike.
That's a great way to put it. I have one more Crux question before we move on. How muddy was your race, and did you appreciate the clearance? Like, did the clearance help you? Did it keep you moving, I guess?
Yes, 100%.
Did you pee on your chain?
I didn't pee on my chain. I didn't have to, fortunately. So the big issue with the mud this year actually for me was Drivetrain. And I think it was because I hit the mud section that derailed the men's pro race after it had rained, which actually created a little bit more of like is it lower or higher viscosity when a liquid is like more moist?
I believe it is higher viscosity if it's thicker.
Yeah, so lower viscosity mud, which meant that it didn't clog up my tires to the point where they stopped moving, but it did clog up my drivetrain to the point where my chain was jumping off of the chainring, which is the big problem. And that's why people peed on their drivetrains. But I figured out pretty quickly that I could just put it in the middle of the cassette and not shift, just run a single speed and grind up some hills and spin down some downhills. And then if I would hear it start to kind of clink, I would take a bottle and I would do one spurt, just one little squirt right on the cassette. And I would just push a little bit and it would click back onto the chainring. And I would then keep trying to find the dry spots, find the drier spots. So that first mud section was great, actually. And I do think the clearance mattered, but I also had my spatula and I was clearing the tire as I went, riding one-handed with a little plastic spatula, giving it.
Still doing 270, by the way. 270 normalized.
Yeah,
it feels like I really missed out. It feels like, Josh, you and I missed out on a lot of fun.
And then there's one section, like you get to points at Kansas where no one can ride it no matter what clearance they have. You could have a mountain bike and you wouldn't be able to ride it. You could have a mountain bike with 40 mil tires and you couldn't ride it. The mud is so thick and it's so sticky that it'll just stick on everything. And that was half a mile. So I kind of saw people spread throughout this road when I turned onto it. So I pedaled really hard, basically ran as far into the mud as I could, just holding momentum until my wheels stopped. Quickly got off the bike, took as much mud off to make the system light, hoisted it on my back like a little backpack, and just stomped down the middle of the road, hyping myself up as I went. And then it was over a half mile later.
So I'm going to take this moment to something that I've been wanting to tell people during this discussion, which is, and this is a perfect moment, I think. You guys have to check out Maddie Nutty's interviews at the end of her Unbound XL. And she has this one of the ones I saw was, first of all, she's just done. She's just so trashed, and it's amazing to watch her. But she talks about the mud and she's like, I don't know. Everybody they look so good. They just hoist it on their back and they just like run and they walk and I don't know how to do that. I don't know what's happening. I don't know. I loved it. It was so good. So it sounds like you're one of the cool kids, Logan. I think we knew that, but
I mean, I just wrote about this because the moment that encapsulated my Unbound was I was passing this guy and he was like, "This is bullshit." And I was just like smiling with my bike. I was like, "No, this is Kansas." Like I was just ready. I was ready for the moment because I was like, "No, this is the spirit of gravel. Everyone has to do this. If you do it faster than the other people, like that is an accomplishment in and of itself." And Maddie is great. We did a bike check with her before the XL. Great character. Check that out if you're interested. She finished second, but like the XL was horrendous. I mean, one of the characters I talked to about the peeing story, Chris Melman, the way he was describing it was like 15 miles of walking.
I'm going to read a quote from Chris Melman, actually. I've experienced that from the Atlas Mountain Race, peeing on my free hub to warm it up enough to have the pawls engaged after they froze. So I did it again with the chain. It didn't work as well this time, not going to lie. I think the key is you've got to aim it directly from above so it actually washes the stuff out. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, you got to aim it right. And I think he gave it 3 out of 5 stars. So
I have another quote. This was from Payson. Yesterday, I peed on my drivetrain to clean it. Definitely a first. At around mile 32, I was sadly massaging the chain with my fingers. Bottles used up, just willing the little guy to stay in place. This is after he peed on it. He's just massaging it with his fingers.
No, I think that was before. I would hope it's before because I think Dylan Johnson then gave. Yeah, but shout out Payson, great storyteller. The way he put it, I was like, that is so visceral, like massaging your chain, because I can picture that because like I have been stuck in the mud more than this one time, and there like the chain can really be the thing that breaks you.
Yeah.
Maddie also talks about peeing, but she calls it wee. She's go for a wee. She wee in front of somebody and wish it was fantastic.
She's from the UK. She's more proper than us.
She wasn't being proper, but it was hilarious.
Let's talk about the racing a little bit. When I tuned in, I saw, let's do the men's 200 first. When I tuned in, I saw Mads and Keegan that had about a 3-day lead on the rest of the pack.
Yeah, pretty much.
Logan, can you explain the men's race? Tell me how it all kind of played out and when those guys took off and how they got such a giant lead.
Yeah, so first off, thank you, Josh, for keeping me informed because, like I mentioned, I was racing for about 5 of those hours. But man.
Wait, hold on. I gotta just explain what he's talking about, everybody. I did basically color commentary, but in writing on the site, which is not my beat, obviously, but it's fun. So I got to watch the whole race.
Yeah, and Jim, our colleague Jim, who's British, did it for the first half, and you can notice a slight change in syntax about halfway through when the handoff goes. Like, yeah, as someone who reads both of you guys, I was like, oh, that's a Jim line. Oh, that's a Josh line. Interesting. So the way things go with Unbound is it's basically an inverted race in a lot of ways. Like it's 200 miles, so it's very attritional. But most of the action happens between mile 50 and mile 150 because of the nature of the course. Emporia is not itself in the Flint Hills. It's next to the Flint Hills. And the Flint Hills is where there are the hills. It's where there are the sharp rocks. It's where there is the mud. It's where there is these beautiful, and I truly mean beautiful. Like this is I always love going out there because I'm always shocked at how much it feels like some special place. We have like these miles and miles and miles of these emerald green hills with cows and whatnot. That is like 20 miles from Emporia, 15 miles from Emporia. So the end of the race is never that good because you have to leave the hill zone. You have to leave the mud behind. And this year, the way they went to the hills was kind of the closest access point, and it was muddy, which means the race just blew up. The men's race was basically 28 riders after 20 miles out of the 160 riders.
Is that because of the mud?
That's because of the mud. That is because the mud and the hills that accompany the mud. And basically after the mud section, the Specialized riders could keep going full gas because there were these intense series of rollers that would go on for 40 miles, essentially. And that's like the majority of the altitude gain in the entire race was between mile 30 and mile 80. So it wasn't conducive to suspenseful racing, but it was conducive to very hard racing because it just meant that everyone was on, and then everyone had to do their best 6 hour power after doing 30 minutes, 20-minute efforts, 5-minute efforts in succession. So like,
I think it actually, I'm going to disagree slightly and say that I actually think it was very exciting, but it was the kind of exciting where you have to like pay attention.
yeah.
Like you had to kind of like, because there was the whole thing with the teammates, and I know you're building to the wheel, but there was also, even after that, there was the chase group couldn't catch because that would have brought, it was a teammate thing. I'm going to let you get into this, but there was a lot of, I think there was some really cool stuff in it. You did have to watch though. You had to really pay attention.
You did have to pay attention. And like, it is like the hard part about these things is it's like, wow, okay. I mean, it's very difficult for a competition to be in the balance for 10 hours. Like when you have that amount of time, little margins grow into big margins. But this is also why these races have been defined by individual efforts and not team strategy, I think. Not only because like we're dealing with privateers here, but because an individual's strength can overcome the other individual early in the race. And it becomes mano-a-mano very fast. Like you don't have the same drafting that you have in a road race because there's more other resistance factors. There are more other technical factors that can create separation that never exists in road racing. So naturally, more individuals can have success on their own because they have more of a control as to the effort that other people have to do. If you're in a peloton, the draft effect is bigger than in a gravel race, even if you have a similar peloton, even if you are going fast, because there are other variables other than wind resistance and gravity, which are the main things that are separating people in road races. That being said, there is still drafting, right? And what we saw this year that was so transformative, both on the men's and the women's side, is Specialized has basically accrued 3 of the top, let's say, top 10 talented men and 2 of the top 5 most talented women. And they are riding with true team tactics. This is not a loose affiliation. We are going to ride for the person who can win to represent the team, and we're going to put our ambitions aside. And for a while, especially leading up to the race, there was this scuttlebutt around Emporia that wouldn't actually materialize. Like Specialized would surely race against themselves because everybody wants a piece of it. Like these riders are huge. They're important. They're in individual series. Keegan and Matt will be in the top 5 come the end of the Lifetime Grand Prix. And Mads Schmidt, he's not in the Grand Prix, but he just won Traca. So he, of course, wants to win the 2 biggest races on the gravel calendar besides UCI Gravel World. So like there was rumblings where it's like, are we going to see like a Movistar Trident? And I think there was people who felt that all the way up until mile 120. Keegan and Mads basically just ride away from everybody in the field, including Kobe Freeburn. Shout out Kobe. What a ride. He tried. He really tried, and he's very talented. And I think he still fought for, I think, 16th place, but he was a rider on Trek who was the only one that could follow the attack, rode with them for about 40 miles and then got dropped, or dropped himself, I think is what he said. But yeah, so these 2 Specialized guys, they're off the front, they're working together. One of their wheels blows up. I think normally in this scenario, Keegan would have continued, would have been like, oh shoot, my teammate, he flatted. But I'm still up front. I have an advantage. I'm going to trust that my teammate, Matt, is behind, and I don't want to throw away my lifetime Grand Prix result for it. But instead, he stayed and helped Mads try to fix the wheel. Okay, a little unorthodox, but still normal.
Right. At first it made sense because they were on a breakaway, and they had enough of a lead that they would do better together.
Yeah,
it made sense, and then it dragged on.
Yeah, then it dragged on because it's a big flat. Like
8 plugs they put in.
8 plugs, and
did not work.
When you tear a sidewall, like there's no sometimes there's no amount of plugs that will ever work because of the way tires work. So eventually, one of them had to make the decision to either go ahead without the other, namely Keegan, because he had a wheel that was intact.
One question.
Yeah.
At this point, Logan, they had something like, was it a 12-minute lead? What was it?
Yeah, but they wouldn't have known that.
Yeah, but when you were watching, You're like watching them mess with it. No one's around. You're like, what? Like, how far are they ahead? Like, it's just crazy.
Yeah. So like the tension was clearly going to be building for them. And then at a certain point, Keegan made the choice to give his wheels to Mads, which again, you're allowed to do this. This has happened before. Specialized as a team has done this before at Unbound. In 2023, another mud year, they swapped wheels between Howard Grotz gave his wheel to Russell Finsterwald. But that was at mile 40 when they were in a lead group of like 9. So it's like, of course you need to get someone you need to have your best rider in that group if you can, but there's plenty of time to come back. And Howard Grotz would even probably admit he probably wasn't in fitness or shape to win that day. So having 2 riders who are 2 of the 5 strongest riders in the race off the front, and then having one of them sacrifice their wheel, which Keegan did. He gave his wheel to Mads, pushed him on his way. That is extraordinary because that is one rider clearly just being like, okay, the win probability for our team is highest if you go because you're stronger than me, even if I'm stronger than everyone else. And that is a huge difference.
Do you like that?
No, personally.
Really?
Because part of me wants to say yes, because when racing has teams, more people get to be employed. The racing is more interesting. As a fan of road racing, I like that. Then again, do I think gravel can sustain that? I don't know. I don't know if we have the depth of talent. I don't know if we have the money to have a bunch of teams. So is it just going to be Specialized rolling everybody in every race because they're functioning as basically this elite road style team on gravel? Because they even recruited a Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe rider, Emil Herzog, to come race, and he played a role for Keegan Swenson. He didn't ride for his own result. Keegan was catching back on, and he was like, "We can make up ground. We're in 6th place. Let me help you boost your way up." So like, does this mean that World Tour riders are going to be recruited by Scott, by Factor, to drop in to Unbound? I mean, that would be great, cool. But that would also be like, well, we have a different sport now. And I think ultimately that's why I wrote the headline I did. Some people have made the comment where it's like, oh, this is overly dramatic. Oh, we already had team tactics. It's like, yes, we already had team tactics. But to this extent, to have riders sacrificing their position, their winning position, because like, however you slice it, like Keegan could have kept going on. Maybe he would have been caught by Matt Beers and the person who came in 3rd. But then it would have been 2 versus 1.
He didn't know this, but I find it highly unlikely that he would have actually been caught.
Yeah, I mean, that's enough of a lead margin. So,
but he didn't know it at the time.
Yeah, he didn't know it. But ultimately, like that's not very material. What clearly the mentality of the team was, we win as a team at all costs. Not we're going to maximize our
professional
results.
Racing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I personally am a big fan of this, and I like the amateurs and normal people, and even like the everyday normal pros are going to go there and they're still going to do their thing. And like, Billy Bob, who is finishing 32nd in the pro class, he's going to finish 32nd next year in the pro class without a team. And I don't know, it's the sport maturing, and I think it's cool. Also, I did see a comment online. I think it was on the Velo Instagram. Someone said that this is the spirit of gravel. Keegan gave his wheel up.
No, it's not. Like, that is not the conventional spirit of gravel. Like, yes, he's being nice. Like, yes, Keegan deserves a lot of credit for like being a team player. That's a whole new side of him we've not seen before. Everyone who knows Keegan has nothing but good things to say about him. Like this is not a surprise, I think, for a lot of people on the inside, but like, it is a big move because a lot of money's at stake. Keegan has this titanic reputation as being like one of the first true, like, world-class professional bike riders to be in gravel. But like, it's not the spirit of gravel in the sense like that was just altruism. Like, that was done because they had a team plan to win the race.
In a professional race, they're being professionals.
Yeah, they're being professionals.
Yeah, but the spirit of gravel is not being professional, I would argue.
But it's a professional race. The spirit of gravel doesn't apply to dudes racing to win Unbound. This is
fine.
like...
The spirit of gravel doesn't apply, but that's
Yeah, we can't get into semantics about the spirit of gravel.
No.
I always dodge this question. People ask me, what's the spirit of gravel? And I say, it's Bobby Wintle, the race director of Mid-South. It's a person. All right, let's just let's get out of this idea of like, that this spirit exists that is pervasive throughout the sport. Because it's not. It's something that is elusive and undefinable because it's a vibe. And like some people exemplify that vibe and some things exemplify that vibe. But like to say something is or is not the spirit of gravel, it doesn't really matter to me. What does matter though is that we have a sport that's growing and changing and is going to be healthy, I think. And I mean, ultimately, I would love to see more World Tour riders show up. I think this might be the moment where they start to, because there will be financial incentives for sponsors to maybe get their firepower there. Rather, if it's a World Cup mountain biker, if it's a World Tour rider, I think we could see these teams pop up for Traka, for Unbound, for maybe a couple other races. And that could create an ecosystem that's bigger. You could also see younger riders being kind of pulled into rank for some of these races, like someone who might not be able to do 310 normalized power for 9 hours, but maybe who could do 380 watts for 20 minutes could be brought in from a team like Trek to be like, all right, we need you to like set the pace or bridge a gap at a certain point. Like you could have like a larger swath of riders who are participating with a role, who are getting paid to be gravel racers. And I think that is an interesting aspect to consider, because the way gravel is currently structured, you have few people making a lot of money at the top of the sport. You have a few people making over 6 figures in their salary, but that number is very small. You have a lot of other people who are making $30,000, $20,000, $15,000. Yeah. And they are finishing like 18th or 19th at some of these huge races.
Yeah.
Like they are a lot better than you think. But they don't have a huge footprint. They might not be able to have a great Instagram following because they don't have their awesome personality. So it's like, what is that person worth? But the sport needs them. You need depth for a professional sport to exist. And the way that works on road is you have teams, and these robust teams have people that play roles. And for that role and for contributing to that overall victory, you get money because that's the value you add, right? So it's very cutthroat and capitalist, but we could go on and on about this.
But we're not going to, because we're going to talk about women next, because we're running out of time.
Yes, sorry.
So Sophia won the women's race. It came down to a group sprint. How did you see the race playing out? It almost looked more exciting than the men's race, if I'm honest. It was more
very exciting.
Yes.
I was watching it and I was like, yes.
Yeah.
What are they going to go? They text the Specialized riders. I forget who it was. I think Sophia texted and then attacked. She dropped back, texted the other Specialized rider, and then that woman attacked. Oh my God.
I've seen them in previous gravel races, pros texting like their feed zone helpers and stuff ahead, telling like what they need or a wheel change or stuff like that.
It's just crazy to me. When it happened, the announcers were like, who's she texting right now? And then the attack happened.
Yeah. I have sent a lot of text during races to sort of adjust the needs. It's something you kind of got to do if you're trying to go fast. But so the interesting thing about the women's race is it blew up even more earlier than the men's race. It was down to like 11 riders through the first aid station, which is just like bonkers to think that like you could have 75% of the race left remaining and you have 11 people contending for the win. But again, this is the nature of the course. This is the nature of the beast. And Specialized knew that they could do that. And so they were responsible for that. Like, make no bones about it. Like, they were the ones putting down the watts when they needed to make this a very small selection where they could control the variables with the 2 riders they had. And those 2 riders were Sofia Gomez Vichafanye and I can never pronounce her last name because it's very Dutch, but G. Josh, you know how to pronounce her last name?
Maybe? I don't know how to say it. I only know how to read it. The announcers called her G the whole time.
Yeah, all the Americans
for the same
just call
reason.
her G because we don't know how to say the last name. But they clearly had a plan. It was like, okay, G ideally gets up the road by herself or with one other rider. Sophia is going to be the person for the sprint. They're going to try to command the front. And ultimately that led to a sprint, which it has in the past with the women's race, more so than the men's race. But this year it just felt like a foregone conclusion because they were just on the ball throughout the day. And like Rosa Klosser was fantastically strong. Cecily Decker, super strong. Paige, she came back from being gapped. And she's been a
over
perennial,
and over.
Like
she would get dropped. She would get dropped, and then she would come back, and then she would. And they started talking about was she screwing with them?
I don't think she was screwing with her, but I think it was her plan.
But
I think her plan was to do her watts, and she's one of the most well-prepared riders in the field. She doesn't have a tire sponsor because she wants the right tire for the day, and that means sometimes it's a different brand of tire, right? So this is her in a nutshell. A lot of the segments on the course, she had the local legend segment, not because she lives there, but because she was prepping on the course. So my guess is she had a very distinct plan. Like she maybe even put it through software like My Best Bike Split, to like look at the watts and look at like, okay, if I think the aggregate time will be X at the finish, that means I need to do these wattage for these climbs throughout the day. Like I think she might have had a very detailed pacing. I don't know this for sure, but it seemed from the outside like she had a very detailed pacing plan, especially for the first 2/3 of the race. And that meant sometimes she was letting the gap go and trusting that it would come back, or she could have just been at her limit and fighting really hard. But
that was the thing. She didn't really. She would look like she would drop off, and she would almost look like she was struggling. But then she would come back, and then she would be at the front leading like it was no big deal. That's why they were like, maybe she's screwing with them. But I think your description of just sticking to the plan actually makes a lot of sense because that was kind of what it looked like.
Yeah, it was clearly born out of a lot of preparation. I think for her, she was probably just hoping that it would have been a smaller group, because. Yeah, at the end of a race like that, having a 5-rider sprint, even though that seems like a small group, is still like a lot of variables to manage when you're riding on gravel tires.
Yeah. Let's move on and talk about your favorite subject, Logan, the big wheels. Scott had 2 racers on them. Cam raced the 200 on the 32er, and I think he was in the top 10 or something.
Yes.
And then obviously Robin won the XL on the 32er. What are your thoughts?
This is kind of where part of me wanted Cam to win just to make like the dialogue go even harder. But it was very unlikely he would have won given the strength that Specialized had and the fact that their bike is aero optimized. And I don't know if the Scott is aero optimized yet. And I think for a race like this, aero still matters, even if rolling resistance is super important. It also should be mentioned that this year's Unbound was a lot smoother than most Unbounds. This is not an Unbound that goes north, and the north is where you have more of the rocky sections. If it was a north course where he won last year, I think you could have seen a much bigger advantage from the 32-inch wheels. But this is me going down my rabbit holes. I was getting texts from all these different people being like, Cam Jones is going to win. It's going to ruin cycling. And other people being like, wow, if Cam Jones doesn't win, 32 inches dead. I was like, okay, both you guys need to chill out. Like, it's a bike race. A lot happens. Drafts don't matter.
I think and this is what I wrote, is that I think the only thing that really would have meant anything is if they both won. If they both won, then you'd go, okay, there's something here, because it's a little bit like the sample size is so small, and then all of a sudden these 2 guys both win, and anything less than that, you go, well, who knows, right? You can't really point to like, yes, they did well, but they're both strong riders, so whatever.
I do think Robin's win. I do think the ultra distance is like the easier case for the argument for 32 inches because 1, there's a slower speed. So aero is not as big of a deal. And 2, anecdotally from people in the XL who rode with him were like, he just was able to ride the downhill so fast all the time. And it felt like it was always a fight to stay on his wheel when we were going down. And like when we were when we were on flats, it just felt like he held the speed. And like when you're riding for 350 miles, anytime you can generate free speed is just going to add up and it's going to fatigue the riders you're with. And I think, he's a Tour Divide winner, so it's not like it's a surprise he won the XL at all. Especially in a year where conditions were so bad you need to walk half a marathon. Because guess what? In the Tour Divide, you have to walk also through mud. It's the same kind of thing, except the divide is many, many, many days longer. So I am curious, and I don't know this for sure, like, did he ride marginally more mud because his contact patch was longer? So instead of being a wider tire that displaces more, his contact patch was longer, so it would displace the mud vertically, meaning he might have been able to float over stuff and he might have been clogged a little less. That would be really where I'd be interested in seeing like data or specific anecdotes with people he was with. But like broad strokes, this was never going to decide the fate of 32-inch unless Cam Jones won single-handedly by like 10 minutes above all of those great Specialized riders, which was never going to happen.
Yeah.
So
that was the thing. They both had to win, and it had to be really decisive. Otherwise, it was just more noise.
Yeah, it is. It's not a disaster. I mean, this is going to be steps. This is going to be years. This is not going to be next year. Someone just commented on a video where it's like, why would I get a 29-inch bike if 32 inches are coming next year? It's like, no, they're not. Good ones are not. Like a bike of the quality of a Specialized Crux is not going to come in 32 next year because the companies still haven't figured out how to make a size 54. Both Robin and Cam ride a 56. It was very easy to make one frame for them.
You're telling me that Scott isn't going to be for sale next year? I'm calling bullshit.
No, the Scott might be. The Scott
100. Come on.
It very much could be like.
But do you think it won't be in a 54? You think it'll be 56 and up?
I was talking to a bike company that said we could make a bike that was 32-inch wheels in size 56, 58, and 61, like at the end of this year. We just don't know how to do it for smaller sizes, and we don't know if it's worth it.
Don't do it for smaller sizes.
Yeah, they were like, we're trying to figure out if it's a business decision to make it worth it to just do half the like population distribution. And that's where companies are going to have to make the choices. Is like, are we going to see hypothetically a Crux 5 Plus?
I'm still annoyed. I'm aggravated by this though, because we're 87 years into bikes and we can't get smaller sizes, but here they're going to invent a whole new wheel for bigger sizes.
It's got to start somewhere though. And like small size 29ers absolutely sucked for longer than normal size 29ers for years.
We have 700C and you can't get like small sizes. They put giant handlebars on them. They don't size them correctly. They don't.
I agree.
They're hard to get them. Like, come on. Now we're going to invent something for 56 and bigger?
It's tough being out of the ideal fit envelope, you know, and the bigger people have it easier. But if you're 5'4" or whatever, like it's not going to be the bike for you.
Yeah. And it's like, wow, if there's performance games, is the UCI going to litigate about different riders being able to use different wheel sizes? Like, well, smaller riders also get an aerodynamic advantage. Like if you're smaller,
that is true.
You have a CDA advantage that you can't work around. So it's like
it's massive with it when I tested it with my buddy James.
Yeah, UCI is not in this picture. UCI is never going to be involved in Unbound Gravel.
Yeah. Yeah, or hopefully anything gravel. I know they do the gravel thing over in Europe, sort of, kind of. But like actual gravel, the UCI has it's not a thing.
It's not a thing.
You know, it doesn't exist. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the debate about 32s is not over. This is not saying that the technology is dead and not viable. It's not saying that it's going to blow everything out of the water immediately. It could down the line. It's something to consider.
Did you ride it? Did you ride it around? You didn't.
I wasn't even able to set it on a stand without someone holding it. They were very controlled about where it was going, and they didn't give me any dimensions on it. I did talk to a friend of Cam who did ride it, and he was like, it was cool, but I was on it for like a mile. So,
yeah.
I mean, okay. It is. I do ride a 56 though. So Scott, if you do want to build the hype, you know where to find me.
Okay, guys, let's wrap it up there. Tons of Unbound coverage on the website for everybody that's listening. Go to Velo homepage. You can see all of Logan's articles. He worked very hard in Kansas when he was not racing. Ton of written articles. And if you go, like I said, to the Velo YouTube channel, Velo, he's got a whole bunch of bike check videos and all that sorts of stuff. So check it out there and let us know what you think of how Unbound went in the comments. What do you think of the mud? Are we going to see a whole bunch of 32ers next year? Is the Crux far enough? Did they go far enough? I don't know. Tell us in the comments.
Do you want to hear me go on an even longer rant about why gravel
No.
teams should or should not exist?
Definitely not.
I'll answer for them. No, definitely not.
No. All right, everybody. We will see you next week. Take care.